Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're watching this video, you've probably heard the news about SNAP benefits and you're wondering what's really going on. And I totally understand because there's been a lot of confusing information floating around, and it's affecting millions of families across America. The Department of Agriculture just announced new proposals that could change how SNAP benefits work, and some of these changes might impact your monthly food assistance. So I went through all the official documents, the press releases, and the policy papers so you don't have to wade through all that government jargon. I'm going to break down exactly what's being proposed, who it affects, and most importantly, what you can do right now to prepare. Stick with me through this entire video because there are some important deadlines coming up, and I'll give you a clear action plan at the end. Let's dive in. According to recent announcements from the USDA, there are three major proposals on the table that could change SNAP benefits starting later this year. And these aren't small tweaks. We're talking about changes that could affect how much assistance you receive and whether you even qualify in the first place. First, they're proposing stricter work requirements for adults aged 18 to 54 without dependents. Right now, if you're in this age group, you generally need to work at least 20 hours per week or participate in a work training program. But the new proposal would expand this to include people up to age 64 and would reduce the number of exemptions available. Second, they're looking at changing how household income is calculated. Currently, SNAP uses something called broad-based categorical eligibility, which allows states to set slightly higher income limits. The proposal would standardize this across all states, which sounds fair on the surface, but it could actually disqualify hundreds of thousands of families who are currently receiving benefits. Third, and this is the one that's got a lot of people worried, they want to change the asset limits. Right now, households can have up to $2,750 in countable resources, or $4,250 if someone in the household is elderly or disabled. The proposal would lower these limits and would start counting things like the value of your car above a certain amount. When you add it all up, analysts estimate these changes could affect approximately 2.8 million Americans. That's nearly 3 million people who might see reduced benefits or lose them entirely. Who this really affects? Let me paint a picture of who we're actually talking about here because these aren't just statistics. These are your neighbors, your coworkers, maybe even your family members. If you're a single parent working part-time because you can't afford full-time childcare, these work requirement changes could put you in an impossible situation. You need SNAP to feed your kids, but you can't work more hours without childcare, and you can't afford childcare without working more hours. If you're a college student trying to better yourself by getting a degree while working and receiving some assistance, the new rules could make you ineligible even though you're doing exactly what we say people should do to improve their situation. If you're caring for an elderly parent or a disabled family member, you might not be able to meet the work requirements, even though you're doing incredibly valuable work that saves society money in the long run. And here's something that really bothers me. A lot of people affected by this are already working. Nearly 70% of SNAP households with able-bodied adults have someone who's employed. These aren't people who are refusing to work. They're people whose jobs don't pay enough to cover basic necessities. So why is this happening? The administration's argument is that they want to encourage self-sufficiency and reduce dependency on government programs. They say the current system is too lenient and that stricter requirements will motivate people to work more and eventually not need assistance. They've also cited budget concerns, claiming that SNAP enrollment has grown beyond what was originally intended and that taxpayer money needs to be protected. In their view, these changes will ensure that benefits only go to people who truly need them. And look, I think most of us can agree that the goal should be for people to be able to support themselves without government assistance. That's not controversial. Independence is a good thing. But here's the problem with this reasoning. It assumes that people aren't working because they're lazy or unmotivated, when the reality is that millions of Americans are working full-time and still can't afford groceries. The issue isn't that people don't want to work. The issue is that wages haven't kept up with the cost of living. Making it harder to get food assistance doesn't suddenly make jobs pay more. It doesn't create affordable childcare. It doesn't fix the systemic issues that put people in this position in the first place. All it does is take food off the table. Okay, I promised you some good news, and there actually is some. So let's talk about that before we get to your action plan. First, these are still just proposals. They haven't been finalized or implemented yet. That means there's a public comment period where everyday Americans can submit their opinions. Federal agencies are required to consider these comments, and strong public opposition has stopped or modified proposals before. Second, several states have already announced they will fight these changes. State attorneys general from multiple states have said they're preparing legal challenges if these rules go forward. States have some power to protect their residents here. Third, advocacy organizations are mobilizing. Groups like Feeding America, the Food Research and Action Center, and anti-hunger coalitions across the country are organizing campaigns to push back on these proposals. You're not fighting this alone. Fourth, and this is important, current SNAP recipients would likely be grandfathered in for a transition period if changes do take effect. Sudden benefit cuts are rare. There's usually a phase-in period, which gives people time to adjust. And finally, there's been some genuinely positive news this year. The Summer EBT program, which provides food assistance for children during summer months when they don't have access to school meals, has been expanded to more states. Over 21 million children are now receiving this support, and it's making a real difference. All right, here's what you need to do right now, whether you're currently receiving SNAP benefits or you think you might need them in the future. Number 1. Check your eligibility status right now under the current rules. Go to your state's SNAP website or call your local office and make sure your information is up to date. If you're eligible but haven't applied, consider doing it soon before any rule changes take effect. Number 2. Document your circumstances. If you have medical conditions, childcare responsibilities, or other factors that affect your ability to work, start gathering documentation. Keep letters from doctors, childcare bills, work schedules, everything that proves your situation. Number 3. Submit a public comment. The USDA is required to accept public comments during the rule-making process. Go to regulations.gov and search for the SNAP proposals. Submit your story. Tell them how these changes would affect you and your family. These comments matter more than you might think. Number 4. Contact your representatives in Congress. Call your senators and your House representative. Tell them you oppose changes that would take food assistance away from working families. Congress has the power to block these rules if they choose to act. Number 5. Connect with local food banks and assistance programs now. Even if you don't need them today, know where they are and what they offer. Organizations like Feeding America have a network of food banks across the country. Build those relationships before you're in crisis. Look, I'm not going to pretend this situation isn't serious. If you rely on SNAP benefits or you might need them in the future, the next few months are critical. These proposed changes would make it significantly harder for people to get the help they need. But here's what I want you to remember. Food assistance exists because we decided as a society that nobody in America should go hungry. That was a moral choice we made, and it's worth defending. You are not alone in this. There are millions of people in the same situation, and there are organizations and individuals fighting every day to protect these programs. Your voice matters, your story matters, and together, we can make a difference. So please, take care of yourself and your family. Share this information with anyone who might be affected, and stay informed because things are moving quickly.